Well, New South Wales' peak business body and lobby group, no less, handed the O'Farrell government a can-do-better report card. This on its first year in office. It wanted to take the full privatisation of electricity into the next election.
The government's been given a score of 7.5 out of 10 before the first anniversary of its election on March 26. We're joined in studio by Stephen Cartwright, the Chief Executive of the New South Wales Business Chamber. So 7.5 out of 10, what about the score for efforts, Stephen?
Well, it's been a pretty solid start, and that we think 7.5 out of 10 is a good score. You're never going to give a government 10 out of 10, so you've got to say 7.5 is a pretty solid effort in the circumstances.
But one of the messages in what I was reading this morning from the Chamber seems to be just think bigger, go bigger than what you've been doing the past year.
Well, we've never seen a state government get a mandate from the voters like this one has, so we think that they should be brave. We think they should go after the reforms that we've been waiting for a long time. And really it's year 2, 3 and 4 and beyond that we want to see this government really put the foot down now.
You're wanting to see, I suppose, greater integration. You're talking about amalgamating the scattering of councils and better resourcing them. Do you put dollar values on what's required here in that respect?
It's difficult to assess exactly, but we think there are significant dollars in it, not only from the savings you get by having greater efficiencies, but also from the fact that you're able to get Sydney to actually function better. And there are significant productivity improvements in being able to improve our transport systems and those sorts of things. A lot easier to do with 10 councils than 41.
Is this a message they're receptive to?
Look, there's an old saying that there's no votes in local government reform, and Queensland and Victoria struggled with that as well. But our view is that unless the state government does it, the local councils are not going to do it. There's an old saying as well that turkeys don't vote in favour of Christmas, and you won't get the local councils to do it themselves. It's got to be driven by the state government.
Yeah.
How does all this work with the Prime Minister's bigger picture announcement yesterday that there needs to be this grand coming together of business ahead of the next COAG? What does New South Wales bring to that discussion? How do you kind of state your case?
Well, it was actually I actually suggested that business forum to the federal government on the basis of what the International Chamber does in the G20 forums. So it was actually driven by the New South Wales Business Chamber, that whole concept of having a business forum, because we believe that whilst governments at a federal and state level change and come and go, the business community at least remains solid in terms of what we think the priority should be.
And yet the business community even on side, given the total spraying they've received from the Treasurer in the last 48, 72 hours, why would they come to the table under such caustic, in that caustic environment?
Well, we actually think the COAG process is broken, and unless we get a better operating federation, business is always going to have to cope with the difficulties associated with having a federal system and state systems.
How did COAG break?
Well, I think the problem has been that, I'll give you one good example. It doesn't have a regular meeting timetable. The meetings are moved around to suit the convenience of the various parties. So we've had a date set for the next COAG meeting, and then it's been moved because the Queensland elections are coming up. So how can you get genuine reform when you keep moving things around all the time?
Shifting the goalposts, shifting stands. Thank you, Stephen.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Okay. Stephen Cartwright there from the Business Chamber, New South Wales.
We have to get back to markets. Love to chat with Stephen a little bit longer, but we do have to take a quick break to promise you on the other side. The concerns about China's growth outlook being back in frame. Global markets have been in the red, including commodities. Tim Mulholland from China America Capital joins us with his thoughts from Chicago next.